Tara is my business partner. She is working in the background, so she will be keeping an eye on the chat. Together, we own Success Without Sacrifice. I'm the CEO. She is our Chief Marketing Officer. We partnered up about 2 years ago when our family hit the road in an RV, and we didn't have cell service for about the first 6 weeks. And I thought, well, I can't build a business on the road if I don't have cell phone or internet service. And I already hated marketing. It was super exhausting to me. And so I decided to bring on a business partner. I was tired of spending all of my money on hiring marketing people and then getting traction and then running out of money, and it was just this like vicious cycle, and it was really frustrating. And so Tara and I partnered up. We had actually met at a retreat in Florida a couple years ago. And when she saw that I was looking for somebody to do marketing behind the scenes for me, she applied, and together we have built this business, Success Without Sacrifice, from the ground up. So she is literally the person who does all of our behind the scenes, all of the tech stuff, and keeps me sane and focused. I tend to be all over the place. So that's just a little bit about us and our company. So just to kind of give you a little bit of a background about me, why I'm here, why I created this summit, why I do what I do, is really because of my own story. When I was 13 years old, I was standing in the kitchen, violently shaking a can of strawberry soda with my best friend. We had this brilliant idea to shake up a can of soda, puncture a hole in it, and try to drink it as fast as we possibly could. I don't know if anybody of you are laughing because you know where this is going, right? As soon as we punctured the hole, it exploded, dropped to the ground, and spun out of control. We were not expecting the can to explode. Our shock turned to laughter as pink, sticky strawberry soda dripped from the ceiling, down the counters, and all over us. Jessica's aunt said, "You better get this mess cleaned up before your mom comes in, or you're going to be in big trouble." The pressure which built up in that can is just like the pressure which builds up in us as business owners trying to juggle it all. We end up exhausted, fatigued, have unexplained pain. Maybe you've hit your breaking point. I have hit my breaking point many times in my life. The first time is while I was working on my master's degree in sports psychology. Between school and working on my master's degree and working as an athletic trainer, I was putting in 70 hours a week. I would wake up at 5 a.m., I would get home at 9 p.m., and I would repeat the cycle the next day. I was newly married, and I was working with a coach who had an immense amount of pressure on him to have a winning season, which meant there was an immense amount of pressure on me to keep his athletes healthy and on the court. That led into a 14-year career of working with high-performing athletes. I've worked football, I've worked volleyball, I've worked men's sports, women's sports, you name it, I've probably done it. Everything except for wrestling, because I'm sorry, but I don't do skin issues. Not going to do it. Sorry, wrestlers. And I had a really unique opportunity in that 14 years to understand how teams work and how they function. What makes a good leader? What doesn't make a good leader? What motivates people? What doesn't motivate people? I saw the fears of getting back on the court or the field after injuries and coaching people through that. Those fears of getting back out there, being good enough. That, after 14 years of doing that, toward the end of that career, I had toddlers, and I just wanted to get my time freedom back. I was tired of everybody having access to me 24/7. No joke, I got a call on Christmas Day from a swimmer who his back was in spasm and he was freaking out. On Christmas Day, I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. I took a leap of faith and I became a stay-at-home mom. And I thought that it was going to be cupcakes and rainbows and that dinner was going to be on the table by 5. And after 4 months, I found myself at the kitchen table bawling my eyes out because I hated my life and I resented my kids. And I just remember thinking, like, God, there has to be something different. I know that you didn't give me this life. I know that you didn't give me these kids for me to feel this way. I just want to feel joy and peace and happiness. And in that season, I learned that self-care was crucial to my mental and emotional health. It was crucial to my family's health. I had gotten to the point where I was not the mom I wanted to be. I wasn't behaving the way that I had envisioned that I would be as a mom. And I had to take a really hard look in the mirror because in that season, I was looking at external circumstances. I thought if I just had a bigger house, then I would be happy. If my kids just behaved, then I would be more peaceful. If my husband just did X, Y, Z, then everything would be better, right? I was looking out to outside circumstances. And in that season, I learned that self-care was crucial for me and my family. And before that, I didn't know how to take care of myself. I was really good at taking care of athletes. I was really good at teaching athletes how to rest and getting them to rest. I didn't know how to rest. I didn't know how to just be. I didn't know how to take care of me. I became really passionate about teaching other moms to take care of themselves. I actually started a gift box company. You can see this picture over here where I am pointing to the newspaper. That was the launch of my gift box company. And after 3 years of running that business, I experienced that breaking point and that burnout again. And after this last time of feeling this way, I thought, there's got to be something different. Why do I keep hitting the same burnout every single time? And every single time it was for a different reason. It was either because I was pushing my body too hard, I wasn't resting enough, there wasn't enough self-care, lack of boundaries. I learned something in each of those seasons. And I decided from that point forward that I was never, ever going to get burnt out again. And I was going to figure out how to do it a different way. Working with high-performing athletes, I learned 4 kind of components that champions, Olympic gold medalists, people who won their championships and what they did. And they had 4 components. They had to have the right coach, the right mindset, the right skill set, and the right rest to performance ratio. And we are not taught this in business. We are not taught this in life. We are taught to achieve and to chase. And if you get the straight A's, you get rewarded. And if you make the varsity soccer team, you're rewarded, right? I've been a high achiever my entire life. My achievement, my worthiness was found in my achievements and what I was doing. And when I wasn't achieving as a stay-at-home mom, I didn't know how to handle that. And so part of it is we have to understand, why do we make the decisions that we make? Why do we do the things that we do? So we're going to talk about in this first part, just what does it look like to be a business owner and run a family? How many of you feel like professional plate spinners? You can just put your hand up on the, the little hand raise emoji there, or drop it in the chat. Right? You have to be wife, dad, mom, husband, CEO, HR, marketing, chauffeur, chef. And then we're supposed to fit self-care on top of all of it. How? The question is how do we know which plates to keep spinning and which ones to let go of? And that is what I'm going to teach you today. So before we talk about the hows, let's talk about, like, what is burnout? Are you feeling burnt out? Are you past burnout? Are you not even sure what burnout is? So I just want to do a quick assessment here. Where are you at on the burnout spectrum? So, one is this little happy bacon over here that's all happy and hearty, right? Life is good, you're feeling good. Drop in the chat if you are a one. Five is like you are super crispy, like you are well done, like this crispy bacon over here. You are at that point where something has to change. And maybe you're not sure what needs to change, but like there has to be a different way. And I want you to drop in the chat where you are at with that. And actually, if you guys want to unmute and just tell me, I actually can't see the chat when my screen is up. Just tell me if you guys want to unmute and tell me where you're at on the spectrum. So one, you're feeling good, life is great, and five, like you are well done, crispy, something has to change.
I posted I'm a five, three strips to the wind right now.
Yes.
But I'm a solopreneur and single, so I am literally everything.
Yep. And thank you for sharing that, Rob. I was going to say something, but I'm going to let other people pop in and say, and then we'll keep going. Did my screen go away? Gosh darn it. There we go. Okay,
I
there
would
we go. I found the chat. Go ahead.
I would say I'm a two or three, depending on the season and sports and kids and all that. It changes.
Yes. Yeah, Tara's boy mom, three boys at home, lots of sports going on. Yes. Rob says five, three strips to the win. Anybody else? Where are you at on this burnout spectrum?
I'd say I'm a two.
And who is that? Mark, who is that?
Yep, Marcus.
Okay, I was like, it doesn't show me who's talking. Marcus. Okay, a two, you said?
Yes,
Okay, so you're not quite there. So we got you in the right place. Like, I
that's
do
right.
think if I could catch people before they hit this burnout, that would be like my dream. I usually
Perfect.
get people after they're like, they're at the five and they're done. Um, so this is the perfect place for you to really like take this and learn from it and learn how to do it a different way because society teaches us that we just have to push, right? But in reality, we actually will perform better. This is scientifically proven. We will perform better if we allow our bodies to rest, but nobody really teaches us how to rest. And we're going to talk about that today.
Awesome.
Um,
Super excited.
Anybody else want to share in the chat or unmute? Okay, we're going to keep going on. I'll keep an eye on the chat and see if that comes up. So let's just talk about what is burnout? What does this look like? Where does it come from? The thing you have to understand about burnout is it's multi-layered and it's multifaceted. It's not just one area or the other. It's not just business. It's not just life. It's usually a combination of things that are going on. And there's three different areas of burnout. So we have mental burnout, which usually comes from decision fatigue. Especially as a business owner, if you also have a family, right? There are 15 million decisions to make a day. And if you are a solopreneur, that is even more challenging. And then we have emotional burnout. This often comes from relationships, whether that's with employees, team members, family members, those things that cause you to emotionally shut down or feel stressed or frustrated. Okay, and then we have physical burnout, and that is pushing your body too hard, too fast. And I want to illustrate when we talk about rest and performance and a rest to performance ratio. In sports, they have a 3-to-1 rest to performance ratio. Hang on just a second, you guys. For some reason, hey, Tara, can you check into this? I just got a notice saying your meeting will end in 10 minutes, which is weird. So rest to performance ratio. I actually worked with an athlete who decided when he was 16 that he wanted to be an Olympic swimmer. And by the time I met him, he was a sophomore in college. He was at the peak of his performance, and also his body was starting to physically shut down. He actually qualified to try out for the Olympic Dubai team. And because of that, between his junior and his senior year of college, when he was supposed to be resting, that was their time off, he started training with the Olympic team, thinking if I just do more, if I just try harder, if I do what they're doing, I'll hit my goal. He came back his senior year and he said, Cheree, something is wrong. I don't have an appetite. I'm exhausted. I'm not sleeping well. My performance has gone down. Like, I don't know what's wrong, but something's off. And after some digging and figuring it out and realizing that he had trained the entire summer at a very high intensity, he was in overtraining syndrome, which is the equivalent to burnout. By the time Olympic trials came around, this was the, I can't even remember, 2014, 2016 Olympic trials, somewhere around there, summer trials. He tried out for the Olympic Dubai team and he missed the team by 500ths of a second. 500ths of a second. It's like the touch of a hand. It was 2 seconds less than his personal best, all because he missed one rest season in his entire career. One rest season. He pushed his body too hard for too long. When we talk about burnout, we have to understand stressors and really where burnout comes from. And it really comes from stress, mental, emotional, physical stressors. And everybody's body is different in how they tolerate stress. Think about the sun, like a sunburn. If we think about, somebody who's Irish and they're very white, they do not tolerate the sun for very long, very well, right? They go from like white to burnt. I'm Italian, I tend to tan, right? I can tolerate sun a little bit better. And so everybody, based on your past, your experiences, your DNA, your physical makeup, everybody tolerates stress differently. And so when we talk about balance, I like to think about balance. People think about work-life balance like it's this 50-50, right? 50% of your time is spent on work and 50% of your time is spent living your life. But if we think about balance as in stress versus rest, okay? So if you imagine a scale, and that scale, we think about stressors, right? We have life stressors, we have business stressors, and you think about all the different things that create stress. You could actually write this down right now, like just write down what are the things that are creating stress in your life and your business right now. And what happens is we start to get out of balance. We throw off our equilibrium. And if you don't understand how to rest and recover to offset that stress, it continues to get more and more out of whack. And so if you can understand how to rest and recover physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you can keep yourself in a better equilibrium. And so what we want is for you to stay here, right? Keeping your head above the water, not feeling like you're constantly be hitting by these waves that keep crashing over you. And so part of burnout and understanding where does burnout come from, how do we overcome it, it's understanding what are your stressors, what are your triggers, and how do you rest and recover. Before I go on, are there any questions as of right now? Any questions or comments? Looking at the chat here. I would love for you guys to pop in the chat. What are some current things that are stressing you out? Is it finances? Is it bookkeeping? That was a big one for me in business. Write down, just put the top 3 stressors, could be life or business, in the chat. I'm gonna give you guys one more minute to think about this. Heidi says, finances, balancing all the things as a solopreneur. Yes, that is a big one. We're gonna talk about that. Just to give you guys a heads up, we, for some reason, are getting a notice from Zoom saying that we're going to get kicked out, even though we have upgraded and it's supposed to be that we have unlimited time. So Tara is working in the background trying to get this resolved. But if we get booted out for some reason, please just pop back in here. I'm not sure what is going on. We actually chatted with the chat through Zoom the other day because we upgraded and it told us that we only had 40 minutes. And the chat said, no, you're good. You don't have a time limit. Now it's telling us that we do. So if we get kicked out, please pop back in. And then hopefully we'll have it fixed and resolved. Rob says finances and client dysfunction. Oh, client dysfunction. Okay. That's really interesting. So we have to understand where are their stressors coming from. Can we get rid of the stress? Maybe, maybe not. If we can't get rid of the stress, how do we offset that stress? And understanding how to do that for yourself as an individual, because what offsets my stress is going to be totally different than what offsets your stress, right? So when we talk about that question of success without sacrifice, we all know that having success requires some level of sacrifice, right? But the question becomes, what are you willing to sacrifice and what are you not willing to sacrifice? And I think as a lot of times as business owners, or even just, going through life and achievement, we don't really think about what we really value. We do, like we kind of know it, but we're not really focused on it. We don't really have the intention on it. So when I talk about success without sacrifice, I'm not saying that you don't have to sacrifice something. You do. We all do. It's a matter of what are you as an individual willing to sacrifice and what are you not willing to sacrifice. So I want you to write down on a piece of paper. I want you to make a big circle. And in that circle, I want you to write down all of the things that are important to you, all of the things that you value, the things that you are not willing to sacrifice. So I put some of mine here just to kind of give you a starting point. Like, I'm not willing to sacrifice my mental health. I did that. I did that in my career and I did it as a stay-at-home mom, and I am no longer willing to do that. And so what are the things that I need to do to protect my mental health? Physical health. I'm not going to sacrifice my physical health. I'm not going to sacrifice my self-care. I'm not going to sacrifice my marriage or my relationships. Now, outside of the circle, you can write down what are the things you are willing to sacrifice for success. So one of the things I want to point out here is you'll see that in my bubble, I have wealth. I'm not willing to sacrifice my wealth. However, I am willing to sacrifice money because it takes money to make money, right? There's a difference between wealth and there's a difference between investing in yourself, personally, professionally, right? I have spent over probably $50,000, not including my college education, just in coaches and in the things and the people that I need to get me to the success that I want to have. We were talking about things inside that you are not willing to sacrifice, and then things that you are willing to sacrifice. And so I was talking about this is the example between wealth and money, right? Wealth, I'm not willing to sacrifice my wealth. However, I am willing to sacrifice some of my money to invest in myself. I'm willing to sacrifice scrolling social media aimlessly. I used to do that to unplug. And now I have systems in place that trigger me like, wait a minute, that's not what I want to be doing right now, right? I'm willing to sacrifice some of my time. I have to sacrifice some of my time, right, in order to have success. I'm willing to sacrifice TV and binge watching TV. Doesn't mean I don't watch TV. We love watching movies and TV as a family together. However, it's the intention that you're doing it with, right? So when we talk about boundaries, if you find that you are constantly, consistently breaking boundaries that you don't want to be, it's because you are out of alignment with your values and not clear on what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not willing to sacrifice. So right now, I want you all to drop in the chat, what in your bubble that you said you're not willing to sacrifice are you realizing that you have sacrificed? Is it maybe your physical health, your mental health, relationships? Maybe it's your peace or your joy. That's a big one for a lot of the clients that we work with. We start these businesses and we have this trajectory of where we want to go. And we think, once we get to this level of success, then we'll be peaceful. Then we can take care of ourselves. Then we'll have more time for our family. But that's not how it works. And I had to learn that the hard way. My hope is for you not to have to learn the hard way if you haven't already. So drop in the chat before we move on here. What is something that you are maybe realizing that you have sacrificed that you no longer want to sacrifice? And I'll give just a minute for you guys to pop that in the chat. Tara, I always put others' kids first and neglect my own self-care. Yes, that's like a majority of moms, right? We think that we don't have time to take care of ourselves, or maybe we feel guilty. And so understanding, where's that mindset? Why? Why do you feel that way? Where is that coming from? Because until you're aware of where it's coming from, you won't be able to change it. And understanding that your self-care is actually helping your children and helping your family. And that's the place I had to understand. Heidi said, I tend to sacrifice my health when I get too busy and stressed. Yep, that's a majority of business owners, right? It's because it's the quickest, easiest thing to let go of. We actually have somebody that's gonna be coming on and talking about 10xing your health, Stephen Hicks, in like just 5 to 10 minutes a day. Super easy. Doesn't have to be a lot, but I think we get in our head like I have to work out for an hour, or I have to do this, right? And so it's just understanding like there's ways to still do it. You just have to figure out what's sustainable for you and what energizes you. Okay, so we're going to talk about, I just want to define a couple things throughout this summit of growth versus scaling. So growth and scaling is defined in different ways. Growth, for some people, it means growing, adding employees. Scaling means expanding, opening new locations, things like that. For the purpose of this summit and what I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to talk about the cost of growth, meaning a 2x goal, right? So if you've ever read the book or listened to the book, 10x is easier than 2x by Dan Sullivan, he talks about this concept. And I 100% resonated with it because it's exactly what I teach and what I coach on. It's versus scaling, right? 10x, bigger picture, thinking about what does it look like to 10x? So if you think about, okay, my goal is to make $100,000 this year, and you think about, what if you were to 10x that? What if you were to go to $1 million in a year? Would you feel like that's possible? 10x is about making what feels impossible possible. It's asking the questions of, what do I have to do differently? Who are the people that I need to bring on? What things should I be doing and should I not be doing in order to really scale my business? If you reach for a 10x goal, guess what? You're going to hit that 2x goal. If you only reach for a 2x goal, you're probably not even going to hit that 2x goal because it requires so much effort and time and energy that leads to burnout. Scaling and the power of scaling, it's about smarter systems and doing less. And so how do we do that? How do we create smarter systems and do less? We're going to be talking about that throughout this whole summit. So I just wanted to give some clarity on when we're talking about scaling. And I want you to drop in the chat, where do you feel like you're at right now? Are you in, would you say your growth, or are you more focused on scaling, putting systems and people in place? Nanette says, employees and friends, mothering and mentoring, helping them to better themselves. Oh, that's probably in reference to my last question, I'm guessing, Nanette. Sorry, I missed that. So 10x growth is about doing less. I think when we think about 10x, it's like, oh my gosh, I already don't have time to do all the things on my to-do list, right? But we're going to get you to think about this in a different way. How can you do less? How can you leverage people, systems, technology in order to set your business up so it can run without you, so you can work on your business and not in your business? So I want you to just answer these questions. Drop in the chat. What if you could 10x your business growth? What if you could 10x your revenue and get back more time? Would you be willing to do things differently? Drop in the chat, yes or no. Would you be willing to do things differently? What if you could be more productive and more present? Would you be willing to do things differently? I think one of the biggest struggles that I hear from business owners is being able to show up present in their life for the people that they love because they're so drained and exhausted from what their business is asking of them. Marcus says yes. Tara says yes. Yes, yes. So then the question becomes, what would you have to do differently to make this happen? That's where we dig into the questions, right? What would you have to do differently? What systems would you have to get in place? What people? When we talk about growth, growth is just adding more people, which adds more costs and requires more of your time and energy. Scaling is not necessarily about adding people. It is about adding people. It's about knowing which are the right people to add to fill in your weaknesses. And really getting clear and understand where should you be spending 80% of your time, and that should be in your zone of genius instead of wearing all the hats and doing all the things. So what would you have to do differently? So just start thinking about that. If I were to 10x my goal, and if I were to make an impossible revenue goal, what would have to change? What would have to look different? Because it's going to get you to start thinking about how you can achieve more by doing less. So typical old way of scaling that we're taught is kind of high intensity, right? You might take evenings and weekends off, and maybe you go on vacation, but are you really able to unplug and shut your brain off from work? Even at home, right? You're still on, taking care of your family, meal planning, all of the things. And so how do we truly rest? I'm going to be talking about, we're not going to go real into depth with this right now, but later on today, I'm going to be talking about how to scale without burnout using the RAMP method and what that looks like, and creating seasons of intentionality within your business so that you can have it all without doing it all at the same time. So I want you to think about when we think about seasons, you maybe haven't thought about this, but I want you to think about your slow seasons. So if you're a realtor, right, your slower seasons are probably right now. They're busier in the summertime. Do you have a typical ebbs and flows in your business? And if you don't, if it's just kind of like you're not really sure what your slow and busy seasons are, guess what? You get to choose your slow and busy seasons. I'm a coach. I get to choose my slow and busy seasons. So I want you to think about and write this down, drop it in the chat. What is your, how do you feel in your slow season? Does it feel peaceful, joyful, or does it feel stressful because you're worrying about how you're going to pay the bills? And then I want you to think about, how do you feel during your busy season? Does it feel organized and peaceful, or does it feel stressful and chaotic because you're trying to keep your head above water doing all the things? What we're going to teach you, and what the goal of this summit and what I'm going to be talking about later, is how to really create intentions within your seasons. Create seasons for your business just like they have in sports. There is a reason that sports don't go all year long, or they shouldn't go all year long. Your body needs rest, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So, I want you to think about, let's see, we got some. Nanette says, summer is our slow season, stressful, busy season, organized, and energetic. Okay, so you feel organized and energetic in your busy season. That's awesome. But your slow season feels stressful. And then Tara says, slow, stressful, sinking, peak, overwhelmed, swimming, swimming, swimming. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Rob, thoughtful, anticipatory in the slow season, good. And then busy, it does depend on how many people I can enlist to help move things forward. Yeah, so this is going to look different for every single business. It really doesn't matter what industry or what business you have. You can create seasons of intentionality within your business, which we're going to talk about with the RAMP method later today. So, as we wrap up this session, I want for you to just drop in the chat one takeaway. That was a lot of information we just threw at you. We have Robert coming up next. So before we go into the next thing, I want you to put in, what is your one takeaway out of this first session to really help solidify it. And while you're doing that, I'm going to have Tara drop in the chat our burnout strategy assessment. So we are actually offering 30-minute sessions to help you assess what's causing your burnout. Where do you want to go? What's working? What's not working? And here's the thing that I find out with a lot of our clients that are stressed. It's hard to, if they're at that level of burnout, like they're like the 5, like the crispy bacon, they are, it is a challenge to get them on a call, to do an assessment, to do anything, because they're so overwhelmed with their schedule and their to-do list, right? So if that's you, if you're like, I'm too overwhelmed, I don't have time, that is even more reason that you need to grab this link and hop on a call with us. We actually have an assessment that you can go through. It's not required to get on the call, but an assessment to go through that's really going to help identify the areas of your business and your life that are actually causing your burnout. Because it might be one area, it might be multiple areas, but that's really going to help us to get an assessment of kind of where you're at, really do an audit of your business, and give you an actionable plan for 2025 for how you can actually grow and scale without burnout.